Hi friends, I just wanted to do a little video. I did a project when I was in college and graduated in 91, and it's 2019 now, and I've been reflecting on it. So it was about gender and identity and intimacy and consent. And so those issues and that topic is really coming up now in our culture with children, pre-adolescent children being what seems to me programmed that they um, don't know what they're that they know who they are. That somehow a preteen knows their gender identity and and now apparently there's the LBGT movement has expanded to uh, uh, some parts are um, trying to give permission for adult children intimacy. And being that I I I kind of sacrificed my life for my college project. I never really thought about it until now, but I knew that when I did my project, I knew that it would compromise my credibility for the rest of my life. And I'm a idealist, and I thought that was good enough. Fast forward 20, 30 years later, and oh my gosh, like uh, life is not good to you when you're idealistic and um, so uh, anyway but so I did my project, uh, an academic um, research project on that topic, and with the what I consider to be the brainwashing of children to to attribute their sense of isolation and angst to a gender issue, um, I think is just diabolical in every sense of the word. And it, it's my opinion that the parenting that's going on now, where parents are thinking it's like parents are overreaching beyond what's politically correct, beyond what's common sense, and they're bending over backwards so hard to prove how politically correct they are, um, that they they've lost their minds. And these parents and these activists who are pro preteen gender transformation are not really realizing that the medical industry wants children to change their gender because the medical industry is a growth industry and big pharma is a growth industry, and they want to get people hooked on hormones, and then there's going to be psychiatric problems, which then the medical drug big pharma is going to be able to feed distressed um, transsexuals drugs for the rest of their life. And that's not even to mention what's behind uh, what profit there is for the violent early death of people. Okay, and I'm not even going to go into that, but I just want to stick to this this thing that's been rolling around in my head. So I did this thesis, and my point was, and I didn't make it in my thesis because I was like 19, 20 years old, and I was struggling with probably chronic Lyme disease and chronic Epstein-Barr. It's amazing I made it through college. Um, but anyway, so I wrote these papers, basically saying that um, people have a right to their experience. They have a right to exploration, and as I grew older, I realized people have a right to make a mistake. Like I do not know people who were drag queens for 30 years, um, and I honestly don't think I've known happy gay people who were in the same relationship for 30 years. Uh, and not to mention lesbians, and I didn't know that many lesbians, but it was a cliche. There was this thing called lesbian death, bed death. Like for some reason, lesbians were known for having no sex drive. And, if you go biblical, maybe there's something to that. I mean, I'm sure there's, heterosexual bed death too, um, or Christian bed death. I don't know. But anyways, so this paper I did was about intimacy, gender, identity, and my point was that uh, number one, things need to be consensual. Interactions need to be consensual, when you're at work or when you're with a friend or family or government, that there needs to be consent in a healthy, free society. And I didn't, in my paper, I didn't point out also, nobody has a right to judge anybody. I mean, unless people are getting their rights violated, and that means you get your property, you get your body, you get your psychic peace of mind. People don't have a right to mess with your head either, in some weird passive aggressive gaslighting kind of a way. Um, like so, you don't get to violate people on all these levels, which now in our politically correct world we have to, like, because we are morally bankrupt, we have to actually specify, like, you can't say or do anything, because you got to be politically correct, as opposed to we all operate from a moral, like a moral educated, morally informed place. No, we don't now. Even people who are in their 60s or whatever, they've lost. It's like they've been brainwashed that they don't even know what the golden rule is anymore, or maybe they never knew it. But anyways, my point is that in order for things to be good and right, there has to be consent, and uh, from mutually informed equal parties. And that means children, an adult who wants to have sex with a child, that's not appropriate. Like, a child is not of the age of consent, and somebody who identifies as a pedophile has no right to violate a child. And um, even if that child has somehow been seduced or brainwashed, that's not appropriate. Even if the child is claiming to agree, in my opinion, that's not a consensual. There's violation going on, and anybody with any sense knows that an adult can influence a child. It's just like a child is desperate for survival and will do stuff. So, um, we have to have consent in this world. And um, for consenting adults, nobody has a right to judge what a consenting adult does. And I mean, when I say nobody has a right, nobody has a right to interfere. Now, if you're going to a Bible believing Christian church and they say we follow the rules of the Bible, this is our manual. Now, if you were to go to a vegan potluck and the vegan potluck explicitly states we don't eat meat, we don't eat eggs, we don't eat fish, okay? So you don't go to the vegan potluck with a barbecue and stinky fish and expect that your politically correctness, that somehow that vegan is supposed to eat your barbecue, you know? But somehow, like in this weird politically correct LBGT um, avalanche, or it's like gotten out of control. because now, and I was really supportive of the LBGT community. I was like, you know, you're feeling like you got to do this, or this is who you are. But like, so like if we were to follow that like this weird sense of entitlement that's developed, then the if a gay man wants to have sex with a straight man, um, is that gay man going to be able to call the straight man homophobic for not having sex with him? I mean, that's I don't think that's going to be far in the future. Like when a man who's dressing as a woman but still has his male or member goes into a women's bathroom, and then like there's all these reports about women being raped in the bathroom by a biological male who identifies as a female. Like, this is madness. And so I just, I know I'm all over the place here because I haven't completely figured out what I wanted to say, but ultimately, we need to base relationships, and this is within organizations, this is between people. It has to be based on consent, it has to be based on mutual consent, it has to be based on informed consent. And if people are doing things that are different, whether somebody is eating barbecue, that vegan person has no right to judge, at least no right to judge the meat eater to their face, just like the meat eater doesn't have a right to judge the vegan. And I'm using that because, we all know really militant parties of the food, militant gluten, anti-gluten people or whatever. So we need to have consent, and we also need to avoid, like, nobody has a right to judge anybody. And a gay person has no right to judge a heterosexual person. A biological male who identifies as a female has no right to judge a biological female, has no right to judge a biological male for their gender identity, because this new kind of gender switching, gender fluidity thing, it there's this unspoken judgment of people who choose to identify as their biology has uh, deemed has has expressed itself. And so, I mean, I did notice this when a lot of my friends were gay men, and there was this pressure. Everybody had to be like uber gay, and I loved men. I just felt safe with gay men. Um, and so, and it was weird because I'd meet like some lesbian parents, and they would let their kids be heterosexual, and they weren't like pressuring their kids to be gay. And I bet now, there's almost like it seems like parents want to be cool, like, oh yeah, my kid, it's cool, my kid is gay, like I've got another, I'm like super liberal parent, and so anyways, I just wanted to say, relationships need to be, interactions need to be consensual. Nobody has a right to judge anybody. And there's one other thing, and I don't approve of this weird sexualization of children and this manipulation of children. We are living in such a stressful, crazy time that maybe for kids it seems like changing their identity is the solution to all the stress, but I doubt for those children who are getting their, like, the thing is, those children who are getting a sex change, they're getting a lot of attention. They're getting attention that they probably should have gotten from their parents, who were too busy until the gender crisis happened. Because what are parents doing? They're glued to their phones. The parents are also running their side business while they're working part-time, while they're traveling all over the place. So like parents are like, they've got, they're having to live this glamorous lifestyle, and they're going to have kids that they're not going to have time for, and then their parents are getting sick, so they've got to live their glamorous life while taking care of their parents who are getting sick, while taking care of their kids who are trying to grow up and maybe dealing with whatever um, common illnesses that are going on, like chronic illnesses. So, um, anyways, that's the first installation of my thoughts about the medicalization. I think the medicalization of um, the angst that children are feeling now, the neglect that parents perpetuate, um, and uh, it's like this the gender thing. I think is a a red herring. I think it's fake. I don't think kids are really struggling with gender to the great degree that I see now. When I was a kid, there was like one person that I knew who definitely seemed like, when I was in second grade, who seemed to have some gender stuff. And I was in New York City, like there was not a whole lot of it, like not like it's like being promoted online. And I feel like it's also a type of, I think the word is Munchausen syndrome, where parents are getting also a lot of attention. Oh, my child is special, and there's also a lot of money being made. So, you know, so the parents are getting like this, like double dose of attention as well, you know. So I just think it's like super dysfunctional, super destructive, and I just wanted to put this out there, um, and I'm gonna add more to it. So I know this was kind of complicated and a little bit vague, but it's kind of a controversial. I know what I'm saying is super controversial, and it's very personal, and I don't know what the consequences are, but um, I do think. I mean, I'm glad that I did my paper about the topic I did, and I feel like it was a deep philosophical thing, and it was very meaningful. And it's almost like like there's that line about you always get punished for the good things that you've done. Like that I feel is somewhat the story of my life. Like I did this paper, and I tried getting a career, and nothing ever worked out. And when you don't have a whole lot of money and influence, um, after a while, you don't really have anything, and that's definitely been the case. However, I mean, and I'm not happy about it, but I do think my work, at least the intention of my work, was good, was worthy, and I've been thinking I wanted to just maybe just put a little bit more of a conclusion of what I wrote about here publicly. And so I will follow up soon. So thank you so much for watching, and God bless.